don't know if I'm even doing this right. Right, I've actually got this wee machine thing. Yeah, hopefully I'm going to be able to. It's not a machine, it's just a wee telescopic rod thing for to hold the phone. And I should have really thought this out before I actually decided to go live. That would have been a sensible thing to do. But Karen doesn't do sensible all the time, so we can't expect flipping, what do you call the words? Wonders overnight. Right, here we go. The Ebb Tide, a trio and quartet, The Story of a Lie by Robert Louis Stevenson. So this is an old book, 1894 it was released. The year he died. And seemingly an ebb tide is today obviously with the tide when it's either coming in or coming out. And something about it takes 6 hours to do this, the duration. So I see it as the tide coming in, I don't know, and washing your stuff out. Maybe washing all your rubbish out. I've never really read about this right at all, so I don't know much about it. Just what I've read now, but let's see. Stevenson at 39 by Lloyd Osborne. Waikiki in 1889 consisted of 20 or 30 houses set in large shady gardens and bordering on the most incomparably lovely beach in the world and the most incomparable water to swim in. At one end of the vast curve of which this settlement was but a trifling part rose the majestic outline of an extinct volcano called Diamond Head, and at the other the lofty range of Wainea, on which the sun set daily in glowing splendour here in Waikiki, 4 miles from Honolulu. RLS, Robert Louis Stevenson, rented a house and moved ashore from the Casco with everything we possessed, including several hundred pearl shells, a Marquesan drum, a sack of human hair, ornaments, a large idol, a set of stone adze, ADZES, 2 matchboxfuls of pearls, numerous savage weapons, among which was the last club ever used on the Marquesas to fell a human being for the pot. I take it for to fill the pot up so they could eat it. A present from my blood brother, Moipu, who had figured on that occasion. Sorry if I'm slaughtering some of the words, because trying to get my mouth around that is just like... Sorry, I've never took elocution lessons or whatever it's called, or fancy talk. I just talk how I talk. Sorry if it pisses somebody off or what. I didn't mean it. I certainly didn't mean to do that. Right, so here we go. Right. The characteristic feature of a Hawaiian house is a lani, or big sitting room without walls, on 1 or 2 sides, trellises or creepers and flowers taking their place. This summer house arrangement is only possible in such a perfect climate and is extraordinarily pleasant to live in. Our linear was unusually large, and my mother made it look very gay indeed, with some of our flags and pennants, and in small writing there is one of the 13 papers on Stevenson at different ages by Lloyd Osborne, his stepson and collaborator, who shared his life from 1876 until its end in 1894. They have been specially written for this edition of the works of Robert Louis Stevenson. Because that is quite an old book, look. But it's the books that I found it with, right? So I'll just take that wee one there, right? And let's see, Robert Louis Stevenson one. That's a beauty, like. Let's see. That's got a map and all that in it. I wish I could turn this round somehow so you can see. Alright, cool. So let's see. I'll find a wee. See, there's a connection, right, with Robert Louis Stevenson, Robbie Burns. For people in the know, okay, well that is. The Lodge of Edinburgh Defensive Band, Tyler in full dress. Sorry, I can't see that. I'm sure they make the writing smaller the older I get. Being the original uniform of the Edinburgh Defensive Volunteers. A short history of the lodge. I've got one book that's got that Dan guy's name written on it. Dan Lloyd or something like that. I'm sure it was on. So that's a treasurer's book. And Low Life in Victorian Edinburgh. So anyway, these books are hung up. There's the wee one that I want. Right, so that's a selection of Robbie Burns ones, right? And if I go up the right way. It's an old book. The King's Treasure of Literature. Selection from Robert Burns, edited by Jai Hunter and Craig Emmy. And Robert Burns, biography Burns, The Quarters Saturday Night, Tam O'Shanter, The Twa Dogs, episode to Davy, episode to Jai Laprake, episode, I don't care if I'm saying that right. Addresses in verse to a mouse, to a mountain daisy, on a scaring home waterfowl in Loch Turret, the old farmer to his mare, to the toothache, to the uncle, good. Allergies and urges, the death of poor Mally. Poor Mally's elegy, man was made to mourn. Winter, a dirge, the wounded hare. Lament for James, Earl of Glencairn. To ken, I did never ken what lament actually meant. Handsome Nell, Mary Morrison, Green Grow the Rashes. A good book. Soul Agent for Scotland, The Grand Education. There you go. John Hyland, Ranton Raven Robin, Sweet Afton, The Burks of Aberfeldy, sorry. Afo the Airts, Old Lang Syne, Believe She Was Heaven, to Mary, Believe She Was, to Mary in Heaven. I can say that to my mother-in-law now. John Anderson, My Joe, My Heart's in the Highlands, The Song of Death, The Banks of Doon, I Fond Kiss, and then we serve her. Duncan Gray, The Devil's Awa with the Excise Man. My Nanny's Awa. Let's see, I'm going to rotate, so I need to turn up that. Rotate it. The banks are doing the phone kiss, the deal, the whistle on, I'll come to you. Robert Bruce's march to Bannockburn, a red, red rose, Car the yows to the nose, contented with little, a man who a man's for all that. Oh, wert thou in the cold blast, and fairest maid on Devon banks. And letters, verse forms of Burns, questions and exercise glossaries. So, a wee biography. What's my phone playing it? Right. Hopefully you've seen all of that. Or you heard it. Aye, fond kiss. And what's this? The Song of Death. Blithe was she. The Burks of Aberfeldy. Rantin, Raven, Robin. I feel like that sometimes. Rantin, Raven, Robin. Well, I wonder what age Hingway was. Robert Burns, right? Robert Burns was born in Ayrshire, in the old clay biggin, erected by his peasant father at Alloa, a couple of miles distant from the county town. William Burness, the poet's father, belonged to Kincardineshire, which country he left in his 27th year to seek work as a gardener in the south after assisting his for some time in the capital and laying out the meadows, Hope Park. He migrated to Ayrshire to be gardener on an estate in Dundonald parish. A few years later, he took a lease of 7 acres of land near the Bridge of Doon with the intention of develop a business as a nurseryman and market gardener with his own hands. Like Carlyle's father, he then built the cottage which to this day stands to show the room which Scotty's beard first saw the light on the 25th of January 1759. So that's why we celebrate Burns Night on the 25th of January. I never forget that night now. When the poet-to-be was in the 7th year, his father removed to Mount Oliphant, a small farm about 2 miles from the Brig o' Doon. Therefore, 11 years, the Burness family struggled to extract a living from poor and hungry soil. As long as Mr. Ferguson, as landlord as Mount Oliphant, was living, William Burness managed to keep the wool from the door, but at his death the factor became exacting. In latter years the poet showed how the experiences of those early days had impressed themselves upon his memory. His portrait of a factor of the Twa Dugs was unmistakably drawn from his life. Mount Oliphant was on a retired spot, and he rarely saw anyone but members of their own family. Hard work was the order of the day for everyone, and his brother Gilbert, but in their teens had to do a man's dag. But there was compensations. The father, who was, like many, a Scot of humble rank, not without some literary taste, and a small collection of well-selected books, the boys being denied the enjoyment of social intercourse with neighbours, maybe the wrong word, interaction would have been better, were driven to find other occupations for dull winter evenings, and they soon learned to appreciate the companionship of good authors. Other influences, too, had been the work developed Burns' literary taste. Whilst his father is generally regarded as the more intellectual of the poet's parents, he owed much to his mother. She was an exceptionally intelligent woman, and with a well-stored repertoire of ballads, songs, and Scottish folklore, she contributed her quota towards creating the atmosphere as necessary for the early development of the poetic temperament on the influence of Betty Davidson. His mother's maid Burns tells in his autobiography note. Then there was Murdoch, the young teacher, who was hired by Burness Senior and 4 other leads of families in the district. Murdoch, with no grinder of dead languages. He had a very keen appreciation of the educational value of English as an instrument of culture. And so he gave his pupils a careful drilling in English grammar, attaching great importance two per person. He insisted on words being carefully defined so that the ever-growing vocabulary of his young charges was used with assurance and precision. Verse construction was carefully studied and exercise were given in turning verse. Right, so I'm going to leave that at 9. Oh, sorry, I haven't even got on the page. So in 1777, the family left Mount Oliphant for a more promising farm called Lochlear. Oh, my daughter was there. In the parish of Tarbolton. As of Mount Oliphant, the family wrought hard, but did not neglect their literary studies. For example, dinner was eaten in silence, each one, both male and female, sitting with a book in hand as they supped their kale. Kale, after a day's work? Kale? I'd be expecting a cow. I'd be wanting a cow. So, there's loads here for you to read. I don't know what you're wanting first, if it's this ebb tide. Because Rabbie Burns is really interesting as well. His autobiography is amazing. And this is England, the Furphy the Fourth, the homes of Burns shown in red. Edinburgh, Selkirk, Wyke. Remember, Edinburgh. Edinburgh, no Edinburgh. Not Edinburgh. 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 But if you come from Edinburgh, right, you call it Edinburgh. It's like Edinburgh. Yeah, Edinburgh. Edinburgh. And then you go over here, you go Glasgow, Greenock, Irvine, Lochlear. This is where Roy stayed up here. Mount Oliphant, Firth of the Clyde, Firth of the Forth, Solway Firth, Newton Stewart, that's where my mum's family come from, and Dumfries and all of that. And then we made our way up, and I was born in Glasgow, and then brought up in Edinburgh. I lived in Germany for a year, and then brought up in Edinburgh for about, 3-4 year old. And got Aaron and Butte over there. And obviously this is all part of Burns' life, which I find all fascinating. I really do. Well, I'm going to stop doing this now, because it's only the second time I've ever done it, and I never put anything out to say to anybody that I was actually going to do it. I sit here talking to myself, because I've got loads to what I want to talk about. There's gematria, there's this stuff. I would like to talk about the numbers, but I would like to talk to somebody that kens what they're talking about, knows what they're talking about. Not even knows what they're talking about, because it's better to know what you're talking about, because that's when you find out things that you didn't understand. You maybe get a new understanding of it. That's what life's all about. Every day's a school day. It's worth it. So, well, I love yous and leave you just now, and I'll go live again very soon. I've just not been too great lately. Okay? Love and best wishes to yous all. I'll just stop it.